Thank you, everyone, for taking the time in your day to be with us. We are kicking off our Career Connection Series. My name is Jennifer Pluta. I'm the Director of Veteran Career Services within Syracuse University's Office of Veteran and Military Affairs. The Career Connection Series connects military-connected students, including veterans, ROTC, currently serving students, ECPs, and dependents, with employers and industry leaders who provide real-world insight into career pathways and skill translation beyond job titles. And today's session is an example of that approach. We are excited to be joined by our employer partner, Visions Federal Credit Union, and by Tim Strong, AVP of Branding and Community Impact. Tim works at the intersection of branding, communication strategy, reputation management, and community engagement, and brings a perspective that strongly resonates with military-connected students, particularly around leadership, adaptability, and strategic thinking. During today's session, Tim will cover how branding and reputation management build trust in financial institutions, the role of community communication strategy in organizational growth, career pathways in banking, marketing, communications, and leadership, and how military developed skills translate into civilian careers. We'll conclude the session with Q&A, so please feel free to think about questions as we go. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tim.
Thanks, Jennifer, and thanks for having me here today. Really excited to be here and share a little bit about my path, our industry, and really answer any questions you might have. I'm going to share my screen to keep me on track because I've been known to go off track a little bit occasionally. Um, so we'll have that up. And let's see here. If you can confirm that you can see that, I would appreciate it. Someone just to give me a nod. Is it Toje? Toye? Is that how you pronounce? All
We
right.
can
So
see
I
it,
see the
Tim.
applause. Perfect.
Toje. Yeah, Toje.
Toje.
I can see it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Again, my name is Tim. I'm the AVP of Branding and Community Impact at Visions Federal Credit Union, and really excited to be here today and talk a little bit about, again, my career path, visions in general, and then careers in marketing, in the field, and in finance, and even beyond. A little bit about me to start. So I have my bachelor's in communications and PR from Lemoyne College, which is located in Syracuse. When I was in college, I did not exactly know what I wanted to be or what path I wanted to take. But I did know that I enjoyed communicating with people. I knew I enjoyed being public speaking and being in front of a group. And so, started that as my path. I always enjoyed writing and being a stronger writer as well. Kind of put me in the path of, again, communications and public relations. With that, had no idea what I wanted to do. And I think, one comment from the start too, having a business degree, having a communications and PR, it doesn't necessarily put you on a straight path for what your career path might look like versus, let's say, an accounting student that gets a CPA and has an idea of the field they're going to work in. I do feel communications, PR, business are a little more open, so you never know where you're going to end up. My first job out of college was not in this industry, but I was very lucky. Within a year of graduating, I did find my first job at a credit union, actually as a part-time teller, believe it or not, at the credit union where I happened to be a member. I never would have guessed back in 2006 that I would still be working in this industry almost, it'll be 20 years later this year, but in 20 years later. I did come to Visions, which is the place I currently work for, in 2011, so 15 years ago. And in that time, in my career alone, I've had the following titles on here in the different positions. I came in as a management trainee. Shortly after becoming a management trainee, I was a branch manager, somewhere on the retail side. I had an opportunity to be the first business development manager within the organization. And then pretty much every title from business development manager down, I was the first within our organization to hold that position and hold that title. One thing I will talk a little bit about, if you're interested later on, is this concept of, and it's something that I've been reading more about and really leaning more into. So there are entrepreneurs And I consider myself and my career path has been one more of an intrapreneur. So it's using a lot of those same concepts, what entrepreneurs do, but within the comfort of, I would say, an organization. And, I think my career path is an example of that because I was hired as a business development manager, which was a position that existed. But then every other position from that point on, including mine today, was something that I had a hand in creating for the organization. So I work for Visions Federal Credit Union. We are a credit union. A credit union is a financial cooperative. We are a not-for-profit, member-owned financial cooperative. So we are a financial institution. When you think about financial institutions, think about retail banking services, think about loans, checking accounts, debit cards, credit cards, commercial loans, you name it, wealth management services. Credit unions offer all of those same things that you would also find at banks, at large finance companies. So, when I'm talking today at high level, definitely think about this in terms of I'm going to speak to you from a credit union perspective, but, in a lot of cases, this would substitute for bank. This could also substitute for finance company or finance path and things like that. This just happens to be my path. I am very, uh, I am very biased toward the credit union industry, not only because I've spent the better part of 20 years here, but because I do truly believe in what we do. As a not-for-profit, member-owned financial cooperative, and that's a mouthful. Basically, what we do is we make decisions for our members, not for profit. And as a cooperative, that does set us apart from other financial institutions. So we have to follow the 8 cooperative principles. If that's something that interests you, I can drop that in the chat to learn a little bit more about. But as a cooperative, we do operate a little bit different while still serving members, while still offering great service, great products, technology and things like that. Visions was founded back in 1966. We'll be celebrating our 60th anniversary this year. We were originally IBM employees, Federal Credit Union. So our name changed. We went through a branding change back in the 90s when IBM basically left Endicott. Our organization went through a rebrand and became Visions Federal Credit Union. So we were originally, though, those roots are in IBM, which was actually founded here in Endicott. We are still headquartered here in Endicott, New York as well. For those of you in Syracuse, it's about 70 miles south of Syracuse, right outside of Binghamton. For those of you outside of the area, more national or international, we are located in upstate New York. We do as a financial institution, as a credit union, we are fairly large as far as credit unions go, and we do have 60 branches located across New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. So again, as we talk about career opportunities, as we talk about organization, definitely keep in mind the size of the organization you might be wanting to work at. Credit unions are a great example. There are a lot of small credit unions. We are a large credit union. What defines us as large? The number of members we have. So we have over 250,000 members, in other words, that's credit union term for customers. We have over $5 billion in assets. So that's another thing when you're looking at financial institutions or finance companies, they will talk a lot about their asset size or how much they manage in assets. We have a $5 billion asset size. And lastly, our number of employees. So we have 900 employees. In terms of organization size and businesses, that probably puts us in the medium business category. But again, if you look at credit unions, there are a lot of credit unions that are, let's say, $100 million in assets and have a handful of employees. And so, when I talk about my unique experience, you'll find that's working for an organization this size has something to do with it. The other thing I'll mention, when you're thinking about credit unions or you're thinking about opportunities and job opportunities in the finance world, credit unions of our size are a lot like community banks. So again, when you think about, hey, I want to look for job opportunities, and that Visions thing sounded really cool. I will share that again, similar size, you can find community banks out there similarly. We are not quite the Bank of America, Wells Fargo size, but we're also not the really small credit union with 5, 6 employees, which do still exist, by the way. So what do I do? And when we talk about the field, branding, corporate communications, public relations, that world, community impact, I manage a team of 13 individuals. And we work in the following spaces listed here. We work in community impact, which is really our corporate social responsibility. That's about half of my group. Um, Visions, we have what's called the Visions Cares program, which is our corporate give back. I would say other organizations might have a foundation that they give through, but we as Visions have decided just to do this through our corporate brand. And again, that's called Visions Cares. I also own what's called promotions and branding. And again, I think you'll find at different companies, again, linking this back to jobs, linking this back to career, direction. If you were to type marketing in Indeed, you're going to get like a million sales jobs that pop up. That seems to be some of the most prevalent, postings. But there really is. And my point in saying this is, you can say marketing, you can say branding. These all mean different things depending on the company and where you're looking at. At Visions, what we consider promotions and branding really is things like the sponsorships that we do out in the community that are not philanthropic in nature. So when I say philanthropic, I think about 501(c)(3)s. I think about community organizations. So, on the larger side, you could think about things like the American Heart Association that we're a contributor to, or on the smaller side, your local dog shelter. That's philanthropic, and that's under our Visions Cares. When you hear branding, it really is about impact and impressions, the number of people that you're getting in front of. And we pay for those opportunities. And you think about those are for things like, well, Syracuse Athletics. That's a great example. We are a sponsor of Syracuse Athletics. So when you go to a basketball game in the Dome, the first stoppage of time, they're going to do the Visions fan seat upgrade of the game. And that's an example of one of the branding partnerships that we maintain and one of the benefits they give us with it. So we do that. We do promotions and branding across, again, all 3 states, all 60 branches. We make sure the Visions brand is out there and visible. And I've got a team of individuals that are making sure that all of that is happening. We do put on our own corporate events. So again, if we see there's an opportunity, maybe not a sponsorship necessarily, but an opportunity to put on our own event, we will do that. We've put on various golf tournaments over the years. We hosted a not-for-profit summit, almost like a full-day conference we put on for our not-for-profit partners last year. We have a really unique event that happens down in Binghamton called Luma. It's a projection arts festival, and we put on their VIP party for them the night before their launch party. We do that. And all of this is done in the name of building the Visions brand. And we'll talk a little bit about why we would want to do that on the next slide. Also under my group is our social media administrators. So I would definitely encourage you, as I'm talking today, as we're talking about brand, building your brand, communication, social media obviously is huge. It is a huge tool and a huge thing that we all have at our disposal. And Visions definitely uses that as an opportunity to tell our story. And I think that's a huge piece of branding. And lastly, public relations. So I would say social media and public relations kind of go hand in hand. They are great tools that you have at your disposal as a corporation to really tell your story about what you stand for, what's important to you, good things that are going on. Those also can be held against you if you think about if in terms of if not so great things are happening, if you're giving not so great service, or there's heaven forbid a catastrophe happens, those things can also be used to hurt your brand. And so that's why it's really important to have such positive brand equity and tell the positive story whenever you can, so that you can weather those storms when something not so great is happening. So public relations can be used in good times, but it also is a tool that can be used when times are challenging as well. And those all fall under, when we look at visions, those all fall under what we consider, again, branding and community impact. So let's dig in a little bit and talk about corporate branding. What is corporate branding? So corporate branding is a company's image or identity and what an organization presents to customers, members, and the community. So it is definitely, I would say it's intentional. Departments like the Visions marketing department, we build corporate brands to demonstrate how we want employees, consumers, and the community to perceive us as an organization. So again, it's very intentional. We put a lot of work into how you, the community member, or you, the member, or even our own employees, look at Visions. It is different than logo, where a lot of people think brand, they think logo, and you think about the Nike swoosh or the block S for Syracuse or Visions, Federal Credit Union. This is a logo. A logo is a picture image reflecting the brand, but it is not as deep as the larger brand and what it stands for. Again, the logo is really a visual representation of the brand, whereas the brand is a larger scale, really defines your purpose, your product or service that you sell, the audience you sell to, your values, all of that is inclusive into brand. So why is brand important? Why is Visions putting over $1 million into this branding thing that we talk about each year? Why are companies hiring and having departments of 13 people in this idea of branding? Because branding helps you define your business's personality. It helps you define characteristics, values, and your purpose. And consumers these days want to choose companies that have purposes that align with theirs. They choose companies that have values that align with theirs. So if you're not sharing your values clearly, some other company is going to, and there's a good chance that someone is going to see that and identify with that and bring their business elsewhere. On the other hand, too, it helps us retain members. It helps us retain employees. So again, if you're a Visions member and you're seeing the things we do and it aligns with your values, you're less likely to leave us. It creates a personal connection, which is a lot harder to break than being purely transactional. So again, if you think about it, it really ties into emotions, and having a stronger emotion toward a brand, a product, a service that you use will make it a lot harder to leave ultimately. Or will make it more likely that you move your, in our case, account over to that. So branding is incredibly important for us, and you'll see a lot, again, across the board invested in branding. When you look at careers in branding, there's advertising agencies and individuals that do nothing but branding for different companies, because it is that important and it is that focused. So branding is part of what I do in my role. Another function that I work on is communications, and our communication strategy. So when I think about communications, I think about the term telling the story or telling your story. And I think we have tools at our disposal that can help us tell that story. Things that we leverage, very, very base level. When you think communications, I think your mind's should probably automatically go to social media. That's a huge communication tool for us. So Visions uses Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X, um, TikTok, Threads, LinkedIn, you name it. And interestingly enough, if you think about that, there's different populations that gravitate more toward different social media channels. So we're seeing a different group of people on Facebook than we are on TikTok. I think that's an obvious. And then what we do is we tailor our message to those individuals. We also have an idea what the needs of those individuals are. So again, we can even further tailor the message, the product, the service, the topic to something that resonates more with them. Social media is just one tool that we have in our toolbox to share with communications. Others include email. Email is a huge communication tool that we have. We can email our members. It is important that we are intentional when it comes to emailing, even if you think about your own inbox, how many emails you get on a given day from places you do business with. The worst thing that someone can possibly do is click unsubscribe. Well, the worst for us from our perspective, the worst thing somebody could do is unsubscribe. So we work really hard to ensure that our communication strategy as it relates to email is very intentional and never goes overboard to the point where somebody would unsubscribe. Um, so again, you've got social media, you've got email. The other big tool that we have at our disposal is our website. And a lot of people don't think about a website as a marketing tool, but that is the largest marketing tool we have. So we invest a lot in making sure our website's very clear, that there's a lot of content available on it, that they can easily find said content. I'll talk at the end about Visions careers and places you can go to find out more information. Guess what? It's going to be on our website. When I talk about the Visions Cares program and where do people apply for these, our website. So website is a huge marketing and a huge communications tool, again, that we have at our disposal. I would say there are more emerging forms of communications as well that we have now. They are definitely not as predominant or prevalent as, again, things like email, even mail communication, which we still use, social media, the traditional media. These are all ways that I would say, traditional communications tools that people are very familiar with, direct calling, things like that. We also have some text message communication available to us now, that can be very handy. That's usually only for members. So, for example, I have it set up that if I haven't made my minimum credit payment by 1 week prior to the due date, I get a text message. Just says, "Hey, Tim, your credit card's due. You haven't paid it yet." That's an example of a communications tool, that somebody can set up to help make their life a little easier. And that's something we're pretty excited about. Also, online banking is a huge place. So you think about your website, anybody can come to your website. And this goes for all financial institutions. Anybody can get to a financial institution's front website. Once you log into online banking, anything on the other side of that wall, that password and username wall, is really can be customized to the individual, because like we as the brand know, once somebody gets into that point, they are a member, or they are a customer, and we can customize the messages that we basically serve up to them. And we know a lot about our members, and to think about that way, thinking about all the information your bank knows about you. And I don't want to get too scary about it, but you think, we know age, address, we know, again, name, email, but then we also know where you like to grocery shop. We know where you have your direct deposit payment set up. We know probably where you work. If you've applied for loans, we know your credit score. Um, and so we can use all of that data to help serve up the best opportunities that we feel would be the most helpful to you. Um, and so I would say a communication strategy today is more important than ever, especially as you think about how many, I'm going to say, messages are you're facing in any given day, or even within in any hour. You're getting a text message, a phone call, several emails, and maybe some DMs in your Instagram account, and all of that is happening at the same time. So the idea behind a communication strategy is to make sure that that message is cutting through that noise. And we work obviously really hard to do that. And then if we are able to cut through that noise and you do take action, and the action might just be opening the email, we really need to work hard to make sure that that email is compelling, it's helpful, it's direct and to the point, um, or else we just wasted it. So I think communications is huge, as it relates to really all organizations, but especially financial institutions, as this is an incredibly competitive space. And some of the places where we have our branches are some of the most competitive areas from a banking perspective in the entire country, if not in the world. When you look at some of our branches right outside of New York City in North Jersey. Again, as I mentioned, public relations is a tool that can be incredibly helpful to help you tell your story. You can also, one of the things I am a huge believer in is being proactive in your communication. So, for example, if something were to happen with a branch or with your services, being proactive in communicating about it versus waiting for people to find it to see if it upsets them. Consumers definitely appreciate you taking a proactive approach and letting them know something will be happening or has happened versus not saying anything and just waiting. There's a lot of, I would say, best practice examples of this. And then there's also a lot of like worst practice things that you don't want to have happen across financial institutions. And, we all kind of cringe when we read these, but they are real life examples. And again, examples of what to do or what not to do as it relates to public relations. Another piece of what I do is corporate social responsibility. Why do companies invest in corporate social responsibility? So, corporate social responsibility, if you think of it, is really your acknowledgement that there is an environment outside of your organization, and it is important to positively impact it. So there are different types of corporate social responsibility. So you think about things like environmental. Are you operating in an environmentally friendly way? This may not be as big a deal for like a financial institution, but if you're looking at working at a construction company, you better believe that is hugely important. I would even imagine at a place like Syracuse University, with the number of buildings, the number of construction, and all of that going on, environmental impact is huge. Ethical is another example of one. Again, doing the right thing at the right time, even if it's not the easy decision or the profitable decision. Philanthropic. So we talked about the Visions Cares program. That's investing in your community. That's investing in your not-for-profit space in your communities. And then lastly is economic. The idea of wanting to keep people and help get people on a level playing field economically, socioeconomically. Um, so why are companies investing in these things? Well, for a couple reasons. One, it strengthens your brand reputation. So again, I think consumers today are more focused than ever on doing business with places that align with their values, and that align with what they believe in. I also think younger generations want to feel good about where they're doing business, and in some cases, like we're talking about today, even where you work. Um, I think that's one of the reasons I've stayed in this industry for so long because I truly believe in the difference that credit unions make. Being a not-for-profit financial cooperative really does set us apart. Serving the underserved communities in the way that we do, giving back to all populations, I think definitely sets us apart from other financial institutions. And that's really what keeps me here. So again, thinking about your brand reputation, it also improves, again, customer trust. So the fact that you're positively impacting, we aren't some faceless organization that's just benefiting from those that do business with us. And then lastly is employee morale. One of the things I can say here at Visions, because I had the opportunity to be the individual to create our Visions Cares program. I had the opportunity in doing so to create a lot of internal programs for employees to participate in, things like volunteer programs, employee gift matching, paid time off for volunteer programs, that we can really see how that's made a positive impact on employee morale. One term you'll hear a lot as it relates to employment is engagement. And as companies, you want to have a high level of employee engagement because engaged employees are more productive. They're more likely to stay at your organization, and also they're out less, they're out sick less. So things like that, it really does improve your bottom line. So when you look at the bottom under triple bottom line, it is this concept that basically you should be focusing on all three things. You should be focusing on your environment, you should be focusing on your organization, and then your community. And all three of those things can benefit at the same time. And a good corporate social responsibility program will do just that. Um, so corporate social responsibility is another piece that I oversee. And again, through our Visions Cares program, I can tell you firsthand, I have an opportunity to go into every in new employee orientation, welcome all the employees to Visions, talk a little bit about the credit union movement and what we do. And I do usually will take a poll of the room and say, hey, why are you working at Visions? Like, what brought you to Visions? More often than not now, the answer I get back is because of everything you guys do in the community. It is because of what you're doing. And that to me is kind of like the proof in the pudding as to why we do what we do. Even just anecdotally, it is bringing us new employees, the most talented people, I think. It is bringing us new members as well. So this good community work also benefits us from a business standpoint. And I'm a believer there's nothing wrong with that. So let's talk a little bit about career pathways that exist in the credit union industry, or even wider than this, in financial institutions in the finance industry. A lot of people, the first thing you think about is retail. So that's your branch, that's your tellers, that's your loan officers, that's what you're driving down the street and you pass by, more than likely your retail setup. I agree. That is it. That is one major entry point for a lot of people. That was how I got into this industry, was as a part-time teller. Um, I would say that's where the most opportunity exists. So, for example, at Visions, we have about 900 employees. Roughly a third of them are of retail nature. So that's our 60 branches, their employees, that's our contact center. Again, about one third of our 900 employees serve a retail function. Another huge, and I would say growing space, and the ones I've listed here are kind of some of our more growth areas that you see financial institutions investing more heavily in. IT is huge. Um, our CEO Ty would really describe Visions as an IT company that does banking. And you think about that, IT is a very vast space, everything from hardware to software to vendor service. The infrastructure that supports the 250,000 members that we serve, the programs that run our ATM machines, our fleet of 100 plus ATM machines, you name it, keeping all of that running, keeping all of us as employees operational, being here so that when my webcam isn't working, I can call into the help desk and get that fixed and back on. IT is a huge department in our financial institution, and I would venture to guess is a huge department in every financial institution because you need those skills to keep up and running. So a lot of people don't think about, if you have IT background or degree working in that capacity. The other, which is a growth, I would say definitely a growth one, is what we call business performance and optimization. So we have obviously AI, right? AI is everything right now. There's actually some funny commercials about AI on the Super Bowl. It is a buzzword, but we have been investing heavily for years in AI, robotics, you name it. We have an entire department that really looks at all of the processes we do and seeing, is there ways we can do it smarter? Is there ways we can do it more efficiently? Is there ways we can automate it? And in doing so, we have not eliminated employees. We've actually gotten those employees to do more meaningful jobs. And more, when you think about the human side of the difference between humans and what AI can do, really having them focus on what I would say is more meaningful work. Um, and that department has saved the credit union, I would say, millions of dollars in processing time. One example is, we do a lot of car loans, and an institution our size does a ton of car loans. Well, part of car loans is placing liens on titles with the state registry, and that's New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. And you can imagine with all the car loans we do, there's a lot of lien work that has to be done. We used to have several employees that was just what they did all the time. And through our automated process, we were able to actually automate a lot of that work. That saved the credit union thousands of dollars, thousands of hours, and then we were able to take those employees and redeploy them out into more, I would say, meaningful jobs where they got to do a little bit more than just essentially data entry. Um, and again, so if you're somebody in, we have PhDs that work for us. If you're somebody in automated AI or robotics, artificial intelligence, you name it, we are definitely investing heavily in that space, and a lot more financial institutions are, and companies in general these days. Another hot area of employment, I would say, at financial institutions right now is risk, area called risk, which includes our security and fraud prevention. So basically, with I would say the prevalence of fraud and hacking and you name it that's going on right now, we keep investing heavily in trying to keep our members' data safe, and their information protected. On any given day, financial institutions are getting hit from every angle, from folks either trying to digitally break in and get in, or in some cases, in a lot of cases with our members, taking their information, doing identity theft, taking their debit card, replicating it, skimming numbers and things like that. So the risk, security, fraud prevention areas are huge right now as well. As that's one of the highest, I would say, concerns right now for financial institutions is data security. Um, Banking operations is another space. You think about, again, all the loans, all the mortgages, everything that we do like that. Those all have to be maintained. So we have departments here of individuals that work on the business loans, the mortgage side of things, again, card services, you name it. So any financial institution is going to have, if they do those things in-house, they're going to have a department of folks doing that. Um, Obviously, finance, another big department at a bank or a credit union. That's probably not a shock. Um, Maybe not as big as one would think, though, because again, when I think credit union, I might think finance is one of the top, big departments. But a lot of it, yes, we have bookkeeping, yes, we have accountants. We also do investing on our own of our own dollars. Um, but yeah, finance is definitely another area. But we ourselves are not a finance company, so we don't see as many, I would say, finance students that come through. And lastly is kind of like a catch-all where I would say we do have sales and business development here. We do have marketing, which I happen to be part of. Our marketing department is about 25 individuals. So that gives you an idea of the size of a marketing team to the comparison of 900 employees. We also have an HR department who's here and handles everything from recruiting employees to hiring employees to the benefits that we have to you name it, job recruiting fairs, internships, and everything like that. Needless to say, I think one of the biggest things that I face a lot when I talk to people is, especially in the Binghamton area, they will go, "Oh, Visions. Well, I don't want to work at Visions. I don't want to be a teller." But I think it's really important to realize when it comes to financial institutions, especially based on where they're headquartered, there's a whole lot more, I would say, kind of like that's just the tip of the iceberg, and everything underneath that supports those organizations exists and definitely should be considered. Talk a little bit about skills. What are the skills we as a financial institution look for? What are the skills that a lot would we see probably as predominant with military connected veterans and whatnot? What are skills that you're probably utilizing there that are going to translate over? Teamwork for sure. That's something that comes through a lot. We have to work with others. We can't work in a bubble. We work with others in different departments. Teamwork is huge. Learning to work together. I would say being a leader in a team, but then also not being a leader in a team and knowing how to transition between both of those things. Problem solving, huge. Every day we're faced with different decisions, different opportunities, different curveballs thrown at us. And how do we approach those solutions? And I think that goes hand in hand with being analytical is, how do we solve these problems or how do we solve these opportunities, things that are not yet problems, but we see could be one, and getting in front of that. I think, again, adaptable, analytical and data driven, I think go hand in hand. So, even as we talk about marketing, and I'm kind of bouncing around a little bit, so I apologize. I'm a creative person. Um, Definitely love the creative side of marketing, but more now than ever, your creativity has to be coupled with being data driven. Because you might make the most beautiful advertisement, but if you can't tell somebody how that drives business or how many people have gone to your website because of that ad, um, it is much more of a challenge. And when dollars are really important and very tightly budgeted, you want to ensure that your money is going to the place where it has the most, again, well, the term used is ROI, the highest return. Um, so again, we're looking for folks that are analytical. They can look at those numbers and decide where the greatest impact is, and then also adaptable. We never know what's going to be thrown at us here with either new legislation that passes or environments that change or something happens with our members. So being adaptable to that, and I think definitely folks that are in the military or around the military can definitely appreciate and usually have strong adaptability skills. Um, and lastly, I think the ability to utilize technology is incredibly important in this day and age. Again, leveraging AI, using technology to help make your life better or more meaningful, making your work stronger. We definitely are leveraging technology here to help make Visions a better place, not only to work, but to bank. So those are some of the skills that I think more than likely a lot of our student veterans or our military connected population probably has that would directly translate into a career in a financial institution. So where do you go from here? I think definitely when it comes to getting jobs, getting your foot in the door is huge. Networking is even bigger. Taking every opportunity you can to meet people that work within an industry or within an organization that you have an interest in working in, or even you might not have an interest, but you might see is directly correlates with a place that you do have an interest. I think going out of your way to meet people, to network, things like LinkedIn can help with that. I would definitely, if you don't have a LinkedIn account, having a LinkedIn account is huge. Use that after you meet somebody, connect with them, and stay connected. I think, LinkedIn is probably a whole different conversation and a whole different topic that we could devote 45 minutes to the best way to leverage LinkedIn. I do think you have to be careful because there's a million salespeople on LinkedIn and you don't want to come across like another one. But I do think it's a great network for people to build out, well, their network. Internships are huge. Internships are great for companies because it gives you an idea or an opportunity to test drive them, and then it gives them an opportunity to test drive you as well, see if it's a good fit. I think it's a great way to see not only what you field you want to work in, but then also I would say the culture of the organization. It should give you a feel for the culture of the organization as well. Internships can be paid, some are not. I'm gonna age myself here and say back in my day, internships were not paid, but it was expected that you were doing those. It's just a great way to get a feel for an organization. Again, get a feel for the culture and the job. And even if you as an intern may not be doing it, you're likely very close to or could be very close to the individual that is. Um, and then again, when it comes to jobs, um, as I mentioned, like I started as a part-time teller, 4-year degree, came in as a part-time teller. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I was open-minded as opportunities arose. I made sure in a lot of ways, my career has been right place at the right time. But I think you also have the right skills at that time, and you also have to have the right mindset. So again, when I look back at my career, and I mentioned in the beginning this idea of an entrepreneur. So my brother, who I'm very close with, is an entrepreneur. He has a business that he started and he runs, and he is very successful. I have realized, well, I think that is awesome and commendable, and I'm actually frankly jealous of. I do not have the risk tolerance to work in that type of environment. I like to know I'm going to get paid every 2 weeks. I like to know what I'm going to get paid every 2 weeks. I like to know my benefits are going to be there. Um, so while I'm not an entrepreneur, I have gotten to use a lot of the same skills that he uses day in and day out, and entrepreneurs use day in and day out to help define my career path and really make it a unique one. So what I would say is I've been very fortunate while I've been at Visions that we have amazing leadership. Our CEO is an incredible guy. His name's Ty Muse. He looks outside the box. Definitely a forward thinker. And I've been very lucky as well to have different direct managers who've been very open to me kind of working outside of just the space that I've been hired for, that I've been put in. And so, what I've really done throughout my career, and I think has made a difference in how I've gotten to be an AVP, is looking around and seeing what needs exist within the organization that I might have a skill that I can help solve, I can help complement, I can help make an impact in. And while that may not be my job, and it makes it easier if it's adjacent to something that you do, offering to step up and help drive that in before it actually becomes your job has been incredibly helpful, I think, to me moving up in my career. And again, when I hear this idea of entrepreneur, what do entrepreneurs do? They find a problem and they solve it, right? They find a solution for a problem. I think entrepreneurs can do the same thing. Look within an organization, find a problem or an opportunity, as people will say, and then learn how and present how you can be part of that solution. And I think that's really helped me feel creative within an organization, where a lot of times there is a little more structure when it comes to an organization. It's a little more defined. Um, but it has helped me feel like I have control over my career path. And again, if you would have asked me, you know, 15 years ago if I would be here today, 20 years ago if I'd still be working in this field, I don't know that I would have said that I would. But today, again, I love Visions. I love the credit union industry. What I do, I feel very lucky to get to do what I do each day, and hope others get an opportunity to feel that same satisfaction in your careers. It did not happen overnight. It did not happen instantly. First two, three, four jobs, you name it, were not my dream jobs, but every step got me one step closer to that. Um, If you're interested in visions, if what I've talked about sounds intriguing to you, you want to learn more about us as an organization, you can go to our website, visionsfcu.org/careers, or you go to the website and you can click the careers button. Um, and learn more about the internships that we have, the jobs that we post, you name it. So with that, happy to open it up to questions. And again, I just want to say thank you for being here today. Thanks for your participation. I appreciate getting to meet each of you, and yeah, happy to be here. So Jennifer, I think I'll hand it back over to you if we have any questions.
Yeah, absolutely. And first, Tim, I just want to thank you for taking the time today, um, to present to us. And I'm going to certainly be looking at the products that I, subscribe to or have opted in and see it, was my decision based on, a shared value with that company that prompted me to get that credit card, for example. So, I'm going to kick it over to, is it Maya? Is that Amaya Mills? Go ahead.
Yes, it's Maya.
Perfect.
Can you hear me? Sorry.
Yeah, you're good, Amaya. Go right ahead.
Okay. First of all, I want to thank you so much, Tim, for this great presentation. My name is Amaya Mills, and I'm currently a graduate student in public relations and financial communications and investor relations. And upon graduation this May, I will be pursuing a role within a financial communications firm. So I kind of just had a pretty broad question, but I was wondering, as someone beginning their career, how did you learn to communicate effectively and establish credibility with people at different levels? So, like senior executives, senior leaders, other colleagues. How did you kind of establish that credibility?
Sure. So first I'll say I've been pretty fortunate in my career to have direct contact with a lot of senior leaders within this organization. If I think back to my first job at the other credit union, I did not have direct, I was an entry level job and did not have that direct contact. Um, I my degree in public relations was heavily based in English. It was mostly an English degree with some public speaking and some things attached to it. So I do think being a strong writer is huge. I think being an effective writer and really concise is incredibly important. Um, I always look at, when it comes to communications, I think something that's been really helpful for me is no matter what level I think I get in my career, I always try to communicate to people on an even plane. And I'm never trying to talk, never hopefully coming off like I'm talking down to anybody. And that's something that's been really important. So very early in my career, one of my first roles, I don't think I listed it on here, was going into the underserved community and doing financial literacy presentations. So talking about things like budgeting with individuals that were just released from prison, or talking about credit to individuals who were on social services. And I think, going into environments like that teaches you very quickly how to effectively communicate to those that are not like you. If you're going to be successful in it. And I, not to say that I think I was, but I really enjoyed that work because it did challenge me day in and day out. So when it came back to working within a corporation and really communicating with various different levels, I think it's just constantly being aware of the party that you're talking to, using the correct tone, using the correct language. Also, just, as a comparison, I was probably dressed a little bit differently when I would go into, again, and this was in Albany. So like when I was going into Albany to present to these different groups, I was communicating a little bit differently. I was using a more casual, tone and dialogue. I was wearing like kind of like what I'm wearing today, versus if they were saying, "Hey, you're going to go present to our board," guess what? I'm suiting up. I'm wearing a suit. I'm wearing a tie. It's a little more formal. So I think being adaptable in your communication is huge. Um, Again, I think having a strong writing background is huge. Um, Even now with AI and Chat GPT and Copilot and everything, as someone that I would say fairly easily read something and pick it out as AI that like, hey, Chat GPT wrote that. I still think having that solid foundation is really important. Hopefully that answered your question. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah. Good luck.
Thank you.
Awesome. Great question. And Maya, obviously this presentation fits right up your alley in terms of interest. So I'm glad you were able to join us. TJ, I'm going to kick it over to you.
Hey, what's up, Tim? Thank you for being here today and sharing your time. Really appreciate it. I learned a lot, so thank you. So I'm TJ Metalli. I'm studying communication design, and so it's kind of like right up your real wheelhouse in terms of like brand strategy, graphic design, advertising, marketing, all that good stuff. Um, and we're kind of seen as the like creative project team leaders, right? And so for me personally, I lean toward the entrepreneurial side of things. And this summer, I'm going to be taking up an internship to help build a Friends brand, kind of like rebrand it. And so my question for you is, in terms of your brand operating system, what would you say is are your most important pillars, whether it be like brand DNA, narrative, messaging, like what for you do you think is your most important brand pillars? And then my second question would be like, which brand or company do you think right now is like absolutely killing it when it comes to branding?
Yeah. Great questions. So couple thoughts. One thing I think is really important when it comes to branding is consistency, and consistency across all channels. So, if you're assisting your friend with their brand, you don't want their website to feel very different than their Facebook page. Well, if they have a Facebook page, let's pretend they have a Facebook page, which is also very different than TikTok. You really want to try to have a consistency across the board. And then the other thing that goes hand in hand with consistency is authenticity. I think you have to be authentic to who you are as an organization. I think people can see through it, right? I think if you're not authentic, if you're not yourself, people will see through that. So those are two things that I think are incredibly important. And then the other thing, and this is, I'm going to totally, it's funny because I've talked to my CEO a lot just over the years. I'm very lucky that I get to work closely with him. And, he's going to tell you, if you talk to the credit analyst at a financial institution, they're going to tell you credit's the way that you're most successful. And you talk to an insurance guy and he's going to tell you insurance is the answer. So I'm going to tell you as the communications guy, I think telling your story, right? I think telling a compelling story, making that emotional connection, in my opinion, hands down, is really important. And I think it's something that is achievable too. Like you don't need millions of dollars, a huge budget to do that. And I think that kind of stuff will also spread organically, and has the potential to become viral. And really, when you're talking about social media and digital space, that's what you're looking for, right? And that's the beauty of PR. That's the beauty of branding. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money, right? Like, yeah, we can put a commercial during the Super Bowl and make sure everybody sees it, but we also can work very creatively and very tactfully to make sure that we're not spending that amount of money, but we're also able to get in front of people that are more than likely going to be our customers, right? Because you probably know who your customers are going to be. So, I even think about things like brand activations. Where is your brand? Where are you presenting yourself? Not just digitally, but then in person too. Is there a personification where you're out at an event at a place doing something? Um, I think that's a huge opportunity again, but just every time, consistency and telling your story, using every opportunity you can to reinforce that. Um, was there other questions there too? Oh, what brands are killing it right now?
Uh-huh.
Um, hmm, I'd say Visions. That's an easy one. No, so I look at what I do. I drink a lot of coffee and I run. I'm a runner and I'm a coffee drinker. And so I think about the places like where am I going for coffee? Um, I'm an individual that would rather buy local. So I'm going to the coffee shop down the street. Yes, I go to Starbucks. I also will say I go to Starbucks. But I'm really trying to stay away from the chains. So there are a couple local coffee shops here I'm big fans of. Um, I also think, again, so I'm a runner. And it's the creative brands. I think it's the brands that are, and I'm just going to talk running brands, New Balance, for example. I love New Balance. New Balance used to be, and they still have like the dad shoes, right? Like they're kind of known as that dad, the ones that you're mowing the lawn in, that type of thing. And yes, that exists, but if you look at their marketing now, they're definitely reaching a different group. You look at who they do their endorsements with today, it is a different population. And it's the people that I'm following, right? It's the athletes that I like. It's Coco Gauff. It's I forget who else that they have in their lineup, but we actually work with a
Flag.
professional.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like that's the stuff that definitely resonates with me. And I am somebody that I'm more likely to buy shoes from a place. I mean, yes, they have to be comfortable. Yes, they have to be good, which is also really important when it comes to branding. You can't have really great branding but a horrible product. Um, but yeah, I think I'd rather go to a place like that. So I think New Balance is a good example of a company that's kind of rethought, reinvented. Um, there's a million case studies like this. I mean, even looking at now you've got me going, and I'm sorry, we're at time. So if you need to bounce and or you need to cut me off, that's okay too. But look at Starbucks, for example. Starbucks is going back to writing your name on the cups, writing the message on a cup, giving you like the glass, mug, and really making it a more personalized experience that frankly they got away from. And so, when they're following their Q2 earnings, their Q3 earnings, and watching them go down, they actually made the conscious decision as a brand to go back to where they started. Um, and so I do think there's a lot of interesting stories like that out there that we can all, I think, as marketers, read and learn from. But one thing I'll definitely do is make sure, or I can just say, Jennifer, feel free to send my email address out to those that participated today, because if anybody does ever want to reach out, like I'm a marketing geek. I love this stuff. I think I'm lucky that I get to work in this space. And if anyone ever wants to talk about it, like would be happy to have that conversation, especially as you start to get your feet wet in the industry. Um, one of the things, just another side story. I said my brother's an entrepreneur. Um, I was running his socials for a little while on some of his businesses that he created, and like I've never did social media for us. Like I managed it, but I never like did it myself. And I think that's a really quick way to learn something too, and learn how to better manage it is to get down in the weeds and try to do it yourself. And so that was really I'd say an educational experience for me.
Got you. Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jennifer did, it looks like, drop my information into the chat here. And then also I did drop a link for the 8 cooperative principles. Is it TJ? I dropped some that and while that's listed under the National Credit Union Foundation, there are a ton of cooperatives that are not credit unions. So, for example, REI is an example of a cooperative that I happen to be a member of. Ocean Spray is another example of a cooperative. So, this is an entire industry and type of organization that, like, if you read that and it really speaks to you, definitely something worth looking into because they're always in need of great marketers.
Awesome. Is there any other burning questions out there?
And I would just say, if you didn't have a chance to ask your
Yeah.
question today, like reach out to Jennifer. Feel free to send me an email directly. Definitely happy to connect and follow up and look forward to it.
Wonderful. Well, again, thank you everyone for, participating today. We really appreciate you coming. And a special thank you to Tim for sharing, for his time, his insight, his expertise, and sharing that with our students. And certainly thank you to Visions Federal Credit Union for, being such a strong supporter, not just to our military connected community, but also to Syracuse University. And so we really do appreciate that partnership and being able to take that partnership and translate it over to supporting our students. So again, thank you so much to Tim and to everyone else, and I hope that you have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you.
Thank
Talk
you.
to y'all soon.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.